"Go away, Mom. You're nothing to us anymore." Those were my daughter's exact words, before she shoved me so hard that my head slammed against the coffee table. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'm Elena, 58 years old, a retired teacher who once believed family meant sacrifice without limits. For 3 years, I paid the $2,400 mortgage on a 4-bedroom house where my daughter Sarah, her husband Mark, and my 2 grandchildren lived. Not rented, lived. I drained my retirement savings, borrowed against my own modest home, and swallowed pride just to give them stability I never had. Each morning, I would sit at my small kitchen table with a chipped coffee cup, skimming the newspaper while calculating bills. My own roof leaked, the paint on the windows peeled, yet I mailed checks to keep Sarah's house pristine. The children deserved a safe neighborhood, a school with bright classrooms, a backyard where laughter could echo. That was my dream for them. I remembered the nights in our old apartment when Sarah was little, walls so thin we could hear neighbors screaming about unpaid bills. I swore she would never relive that fear. So when Mark's credit collapsed after unemployment, I stepped in. I signed papers, wrote checks, and smiled when Sarah chose new kitchen appliances, landscaping services, even a cream-colored exterior repaint, all on my dime. But love, I've learned, can turn into entitlement faster than a storm cloud spreads across the sky. Sarah no longer spoke with gratitude. She spoke with demand. "Transfer the house to us completely, Mom. Stop being dramatic. You have your pension. You don't need this too." That day, her eyes were cold, her voice dripping with contempt. And when I refused, when I explained that this house was my only safety net, she stepped closer and shoved me. My purse spilled across the floor. My glasses cracked. My own daughter towering above me, spitting out the words, "Get out. Don't come back." I walked out of that house with blood on my cheek and silence ringing in my ears. But what Sarah didn't know was that hours earlier, I had already made a phone call that would change everything. The chipped coffee cup waited for me back home. This time, when I set it down, my hands weren't trembling with fear. They were steady with resolve. The front door slammed behind me with a sound that still echoes in my bones. My daughter's voice, sharp, venomous, was the last thing I heard. "Don't come back, Mom." For a moment, I just stood there, swaying on the porch of a house I had bought and paid for, feeling the sting in my cheek where her hands had landed. The neighbors across the street peeked through their curtains. They'd seen me bringing groceries, repairing fences, paying for landscaping crews. Now they watched me stumble down the steps, clutching a broken purse like I was some unwanted stranger. None of them opened the door. None of them said a word. Silence can be the loudest form of judgment. I walked to my car parked at the curb. The cream-colored paint on their house gleamed under the afternoon sun, the very paint job I had written a check for last spring. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel, the metallic taste of blood still in my mouth, and whispered, "So this is how it ends." The 15-minute drive back to my own home felt longer than any journey I'd taken. When I pulled into the driveway, reality slapped me again. My 2-bedroom bungalow looked tired, weary, neglected like me. Paint peeled around the windows. The steps sagged from rot I hadn't been able to afford fixing. Why? Because every spare dollar had gone into Sarah's mortgage. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and dust. The wallpaper curled at the corners. I hadn't replaced a single appliance in years. My refrigerator hummed like a dying animal, and my heater clanked with every cycle. I had sacrificed comfort here so that Sarah could live in luxury there. I sat at my kitchen table, the chipped coffee cup waiting, my hand brushing against an old photo album filled with pictures of Sarah as a child, pigtails, school uniforms, birthday candles. My throat tightened. How had that little girl grown into the woman who shoved me onto a hardwood floor and told me I was useless? The tears came then, hot and unrelenting. But underneath them, something else stirred. A current of steel. The house might be crumbling, the savings might be gone, but my will was not broken. She thought she had discarded me. She thought I would crawl back, desperate and apologetic. But she had no idea that a mother's silence can be the most dangerous warning. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's face, her cold smirk, the way she looked down at me as if I were a beggar instead of the woman who'd given her everything. I tossed under the thin quilt, staring at the water stain on my ceiling, wondering how much longer the roof would hold before it collapsed. At dawn, I stepped outside. The chill bit through my coat as I carried the morning paper back inside. Flipping through the pages, I saw a real estate section filled with smiling families in polished kitchens, sparkling bathrooms, manicured lawns, all things my money had purchased for her, not for me. I poured coffee into my chipped cup, the steam fogging my glasses, and stared at the numbers I had scribbled onto the margin of the newspaper. 3 years of mortgage payments, landscaping fees, new roof, appliances. The total glared back at me like a cruel joke. Nearly $130,000. And what did I have to show for it? A bruised cheekbone and a daughter who shoved me out the door. By mid-morning, I drove past Maple Heights, not to visit, just to see. Their lawn was immaculate, trimmed like a magazine cover. The children's bicycles leaned against the garage, bright and shiny, not a speck of rust. Curtains swayed in the bay window, and I imagined Sarah inside, sipping her latte, believing she had triumphed. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. Across town, my own porch steps sagged so badly that delivery men left packages at the curb. My mailbox leaned to one side, rust gnawing at the hinges. The contrast was brutal. Her house gleamed like prosperity. Mine whispered neglect. That was the moment it crystallized. Enough was enough. Sacrifice without gratitude isn't love, it's slavery. And I would not live as a slave to my own child's entitlement. I drove home with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Sitting at my table, I flipped open my worn checkbook and ran my fingers over the empty lines. No more signatures for her. No more silent payments keeping her afloat. She thought she had power because I had been quiet. But silence was about to end. I reached for my phone. My pulse steadied. The decision was made. Tomorrow, the mortgage company would hear from me directly. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the chipped coffee cup at my side, and a notepad filled with calculations. I dialed the mortgage company's number, each ring echoing like a drumbeat. Mortgage Services, this is Jennifer speaking. How can I help you today? My voice didn't tremble. This is Elena Patterson. Property address, 1247 Maple Heights Drive. I need to discuss my account. A pause as she typed. Yes? I see your file. Mrs. Patterson. Your payments are actually ahead of schedule. That's wonderful. What can I help you with today? I inhaled slowly, steadying my tone. I want to cancel the automatic payments immediately. Silence stretched through the line. Then, are you experiencing financial hardship? We have several programs. No hardship. I cut in. Calm, but sharp. I'm choosing to stop paying for a property where I am no longer welcome. There was another pause, longer this time. I understand, Jennifer said carefully. I can cancel the scheduled payment. Would you like to discuss options for the property? Yes. Tell me what happens if I stop paying entirely. Her voice grew cautious. After 30 days, the account would enter default. After that, foreclosure proceedings begin. The current occupants may remain until the process concludes, but they'll receive legal notices. My lips curled into something close to a smile. Good. Cancel the automatic payment. Effective immediately. Done. Jennifer confirmed. Your payment scheduled for next week has been canceled. I'll transfer you to our account management team to discuss long-term options. As I waited on hold, I pictured Sarah's face when the first letter arrived, her disbelief. The panic as she realized her golden life was built on quicksand. She'd call me dramatic, overreacting. But this time, she wouldn't be able to gaslight me. Numbers don't lie. Deeds don't lie. And the deed had only one name. Mine. A new voice came on the line. Mrs. Patterson, this is David from account management. I understand you want to explore property options? Yes, I said, my resolve steel. What if I sell? His tone shifted, brisk and professional. If there's no lease agreement with the occupants, you're free to sell. Standard 30-day notice is required. But otherwise, you have full rights. Good, I replied. That's exactly what I needed to hear. When I hung up, my hands no longer trembled. The silence in my kitchen was no longer heavy with grief. It was filled with something sharper, stronger, justice in motion. By afternoon, I had already dialed another number, the one belonging to Patricia, my old real estate agent. She'd helped me buy my modest bungalow 15 years ago, and over the years we'd exchanged Christmas cards and the occasional phone call. If there was one person I could trust to handle this mess with precision, it was her. Elena! Her warm, steady voice wrapped around me like a blanket. How lovely to hear from you. What can I do for you? I hesitated for only a breath. Patricia, I need to sell a property. It's urgent, and it's complicated. There was a pause on her end. She knew my story. I had once asked her advice when Sarah and Mark couldn't qualify for a mortgage. She had warned me then about tying my financial security to theirs. Now her voice dropped, colder than I'd ever heard it. Is this about the Maple Heights house? Yes, My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. She put her hands on me, Patricia. She shoved me to the floor and told me to get out. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Patricia's tone turned to steel. Then we're going to do this by the book, Elena. Professionally, quickly, and without giving her the chance to sabotage it. Relief washed through me. I don't want revenge, I whispered, though in my heart, I knew it was more complicated than that. I just want my life back. And you'll have it, she promised. Houses in that neighborhood are moving fast. If we price it right, we'll have offers within days. The next morning, Patricia arrived at Maple Heights with her measuring tape, camera, and clipboard. I stayed in the car across the street, watching. From the driveway, Sarah's children's chalk drawings still brightened the pavement, innocent and unaware. But inside, the home was no longer theirs to claim. Patricia moved briskly, photographing each room, jotting notes. Her efficiency was a balm to my bruised pride. At one point, Sarah peeked out the window, her face twisted in confusion. As she saw Patricia on the lawn, she grabbed her phone and began dialing furiously, no doubt trying to reach me. I silenced the call. For years, she'd believed I would always pick up. Not this time. Patricia returned to my car, shutting her folder with a snap. She knows something's happening, she said, eyes gleaming. Good. Let her sweat. For the first time in years, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The kind of calm that comes when a storm finally shifts in your favor. That evening, I went home not to collapse in grief, but to breathe. For the first time in 3 years, I cooked a meal only for myself, simple roasted chicken, with vegetables from the corner market. No frantic calls from Sarah demanding I cover another bill. No grandchild tugging at my sleeve while she scrolled through her phone. Just the sizzle of the pan, the hum of my weary refrigerator, and silence that finally felt like peace. After dinner, I drew a bath. Steam curled around the mirror as I lowered myself into the water, my bruised hip protesting at first, then relaxing under the heat. The dried blood in my hair dissolved into crimson threads that swirled down the drain. Watching them vanish, I realized I was cleansing more than wounds. I was washing away years of humiliation. Lying there, I let my mind wander to all the weekends I'd spent at home improvement stores, picking out paint, roof shingles, or lawn care contracts for her. All the times I'd denied myself a new coat, a vacation, even a dentist appointment, because Sarah needed something more urgent. Each memory had once felt like love. Now they looked like shackles. When I stepped out of the tub, I wrapped myself in an old robe, threadbare but warm. I looked in the mirror. My face was tired. Yes, but there was something new behind the purple bruise and swollen lip. Steel. For the first time in years, I recognized myself. Not just Sarah's mother. Not just the bank that financed her life. Me. Elena. Later, I curled up in bed with a library book I'd checked out weeks ago but never opened. I read until midnight. Uninterrupted. The clock ticked softly. A sound I'd once hated for reminding me of passing time. Now it marked a new rhythm. Mine. Not hers. My phone lit up on the nightstand. 10 missed calls from Sarah. 6 from Mark. I turned it face down. Tomorrow they would call again. Tomorrow they would panic. And tomorrow, I would still not answer. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in years. Not because everything was solved, but because I had finally chosen myself. By the end of the week, the missed calls had multiplied. 30, then 40. My voicemail was flooded with Sarah's voice. Each message a different performance. The first ones dripped with anger. "Mom, what have you done?" The bank called. "You can't just stop paying. That's irresponsible. You're ruining our lives." Then came the guilt trips. "The kids need stability. Do you really want Jake and Lily to suffer just because you're upset with me? Think of your grandchildren." And finally, the pleas. "Mom, please." I overreacted. We both did. Let's just forget what happened. Restart the payments, and we'll figure it out together. But through all those voicemails, one thing never appeared: an apology. Not once did she say, "I'm sorry for shoving you. I'm sorry for calling you useless." Not once did she acknowledge the bruise blooming across my cheek or the fear in my eyes when she forced me to the ground. I played the messages only once, sitting at my kitchen table with my chipped coffee cup. Then I deleted them all. Some words don't deserve to live in your phone. Mark tried too. His voice was softer, hesitant. "Mrs. Patterson, maybe we can work out a plan. We could pay you back slowly. Sarah's just under a lot of stress." But even his attempts crumbled under Sarah's shadow. I could hear her in the background sometimes, snapping, "Don't you dare take her side." The desperation grew by the day. They must have realized quickly what my payments had been covering: the polished exterior, the manicured lawn, the illusion of wealth. Without me, the foundation cracked. Neighbors began noticing. Patricia told me that when she visited for follow-up photos, the grass had already started to brown. Toys littered the yard. The mailbox sagged. Sarah's mask of control was slipping, and the neighborhood saw it. Meanwhile, I rediscovered quiet rituals. Reading in bed. taking slow walks at dusk, watering the struggling roses in my front yard. Each small act reminded me that life could be gentle without someone constantly demanding pieces of me. Sarah's calls kept coming, sometimes late into the night, my phone buzzing like a trapped insect. But I never picked up. I had answered every call for 8 years. This time, my silence was the answer. And silence, I was learning, can be louder than shouting. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when the knock came. I opened the door to find Sarah and Mark standing on my porch, rain dripping from their coats. Sarah's eyes were red, but not from remorse. I recognized the look. It was fear, disguised as humility. "Mom," she began softly, her tone sugar, sweet, nothing like the venom she'd spat when she shoved me. "Can we come in? We need to talk." I stepped aside, not out of warmth, but curiosity. I wanted to hear how far she would go. They sat at my small kitchen table, the one scarred with years of use. Sarah smoothed her damp hair and spoke carefully, as though rehearsed. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. Maybe we both got carried away. Maybe emotions were high." Mark nodded quickly, like a man under orders. I folded my arms. "Go on." "Well," she said, flashing that strained smile, "maybe we can try a gradual transition. Like you suggested before, we could start covering part of the mortgage. Eventually all of it. It doesn't have to be immediate." I sipped from my chipped cup, letting the silence stretch. She shifted uncomfortably. "What about an apology, Sarah?" I asked quietly. She blinked. "Apology? Mom, I already said we both overreacted." "No," I corrected, my voice calm but sharp. "You put your hands on me. You shoved me onto the floor of a house I paid for. That's not an overreaction. That's assault." Her jaw tightened, the mask slipping for a second. Then she forced the smile back. "Let's not dwell on the past. We're family. What matters is moving forward, right?" Mark cleared his throat. "The kids need stability. Jake's been asking why Grandma isn't around. It's confusing for them." I looked at him, then back at Sarah. "You're not here for reconciliation. You're here because you're afraid. Afraid the house is slipping through your fingers." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's smile froze, her eyes flickering with the truth she couldn't disguise. I leaned forward, my voice low. "You told me to go away, Sarah. And I did. But when I walked away, I took the foundation of your life with me." Her cheeks flushed, and for the first time, I saw the fear fully bloom. The rain had eased outside, but inside my kitchen the storm only grew stronger. Sarah leaned forward, her voice sharpening. "You can't just cut us off, Mom. We're your family. Families don't do that to each other." I placed my coffee cup gently on the table, the sound of ceramic against wood like a gavel striking. Families also don't shove their mothers onto the floor and call them useless. Color drained from Mark's face. He shifted uneasily, eyes darting between us. "Sarah, maybe you should—" "Don't you dare take her side," she snapped, turning on him. Then, to me, with venom thinly veiled under fake sweetness, "Look, you've been paying anyway. It doesn't change your life if you keep doing it. But if you stop, if you walk away, our kids lose everything. Do you really want to be responsible for that?" I leaned back, studying her, almost in awe of how far entitlement could twist a person. "Responsible?" I repeated. "Sarah, let's be clear. For 3 years, I've paid nearly $130,000 to keep a roof over your head. That's not counting the down payment, the repairs, the landscaping, the furniture. And how did you repay me? By pushing me, by drawing blood, by telling me to disappear. Her eyes flashed. That was an argument. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I tilted my head, brushing a finger along the faint bruise still visible near my temple. This mark says otherwise. My cracked glasses say otherwise. My lawyer, if I had called one that night, would have said otherwise. The room grew heavy with silence, broken only by the steady drip of rain from the gutter outside. Finally, Sarah slammed her palms on the table. Fine. What do you want? Money, gratitude, an apology? I met her eyes, calm and cold. No, Sarah. I don't want anything from you. That's the difference between us. I already have what I need, because as of yesterday, the house you've been living in is under contract. Patricia listed it, and we had 3 offers in 2 days. I accepted one this morning. For a moment, she didn't react. The words seemed to hang in the air, too unreal to grasp. Then, slowly, her face twisted, eyes widening in horror. You sold it? Yes, I said evenly. For $420,000. After fees, I'll walk away with enough to secure my retirement and repair my own home. Something I should have done years ago. Her chair screeched against the floor as she shot to her feet. You can't do that. That's our house. Mark's voice was a whisper. Sarah, it's in her name. Always has been. Sarah spun on him, wild-eyed. Shut up. Don't you see what she's doing? She's ruining us. She's taking everything. Oh, I rose too. Slowly, deliberately, letting my calmness slice sharper than her rage. No, Sarah, I'm not taking anything. I'm reclaiming what was mine all along. You mistook generosity for obligation. You thought my sacrifices were your rights. But love without respect is just enabling, and I won't enable you anymore. Her voice cracked, desperation flooding her tone. What about the kids? What about Jake and Lily? They'll be homeless. I shook my head. No, they have 2 parents with working hands and capable minds. They'll survive. They'll learn resilience, something you've refused to teach them. You should have thought about their stability before you shoved your mother and spat in her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks now, mascara running like black rivers. She clutched the edge of the table, as though it might anchor her collapsing world. Please, Mom. Don't do this. We'll change. I'll change. But I saw the truth in her eyes. It wasn't remorse, only fear. Fear of losing the comfort she'd built on my back. I stepped toward the door, picking up my coat with deliberate calm. The sale closes in 2 weeks. You'll get the legal notice soon. 30 days to vacate. That's the law. Sarah's sobs filled the kitchen, raw and piercing, but I didn't falter. I opened the door to the night air, the rain-slick street glistening under the dim light. Behind me, she cried out, voice breaking. You'll regret this. You'll regret turning your back on your own daughter. I paused only once, glancing over my shoulder. No, Sarah, the regret is yours. And it started the moment you put your hands on me. Then I stepped out into the rain, letting the door close on her wails, each sob a reminder that consequences had finally arrived. The morning after I told Sarah the house had been sold, I woke before dawn. The rain had passed, leaving the air cool and clean. I shuffled into the kitchen, barefoot on the creaking floorboards, and reached for the same chipped coffee cup I had used for years. Once, that cup had been my companion during mornings filled with dread. Each sip had carried the weight of calculations, mortgage payments, overdue bills, endless sacrifices. I had wrapped my hands around it not for warmth but for courage, hoping it would steady the tremor in my fingers as I drained my savings for Sarah's comfort. Today, My hands didn't tremble. They were steady as stone. I poured the coffee, watched the steam rise, and sat by the window where the first sunlight touched the peeling paint of my own house. For once, I didn't see decay. I saw possibility. With the money from the sale, I could repair the steps, repaint the windows, maybe even plant roses that would actually bloom. My house, my life, finally mine again. My phone buzzed across the table. 30 new missed calls. I let it buzz until it fell silent. I had no need to hear more rehearsed apologies, no need to subject myself to gaslighting cloaked as reconciliation. Sarah had chosen her path, and now she was walking it barefoot on shards of her own making. As I sipped, I thought of my grandchildren. Jake's crooked grin, Lily's bright eyes. They were innocent in all of this, and I would always love them. But I also knew the best lesson I could give them wasn't another check written in secret. It was showing them that love requires respect, and respect requires boundaries. Someday, when they were older, they would understand why their grandmother had to say, "Enough." By mid-morning, Patricia called to confirm. The buyer's paperwork was in motion, inspections scheduled, closing date set. 2 weeks, Elena, she said. In 2 weeks, you'll be free. Free. The words settled over me like sunlight breaking through clouds. For years, I had confused love with debt, care with servitude. I had thought being a good mother meant giving until I was hollow. But no more. As the day wore on, I packed small boxes, not of regret, but of things I had neglected while sacrificing for Sarah. Old books I hadn't read, yarn from a half-finished scarf, recipes I'd clipped and never tried. Each object felt like a promise to myself. A future reclaimed, a self restored. That evening, as twilight painted the sky lavender, I returned to the kitchen once more. I set the cup down, stared at it, and smiled. The cup was the same, but I wasn't. This time, I wasn't drinking to steady my nerves before sending money to a daughter who despised me. I was drinking to celebrate the silence, the peace, the justice of a closed chapter. Outside, the phone buzzed again. 30 more calls. I ignored them. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. I lifted the cup, warm and comforting, and whispered to myself, "Here's to new beginnings. Here's to me." And with that final sip, I closed not just the account, not just the house, but the door on years of exploitation. The cup was the same, but I wasn't. This time, I was the one closing the door. If you've ever had to draw boundaries with family who took your generosity for granted, share your story below. And don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes the strongest stories are born from the quietest victories.